All right, so a buddy of mine recently asked me if I could build him his brand new system for him, and I said, okay. I said, of course, sure. And he was totally cool if I film it and stuff. So here it is. It's a very straightforward build. We're gonna be putting together a brand new workstation system for him. It's completely for work. He's in the film industry. He needs it for editing, rendering, color grading, color correction, and all that stuff. Some of these parts are actually ported over from his previous build, and I'm not exactly sure what the specs are of that. I would just assume that it's not as good as this build. So also bear that in mind. There are some parts here that could have been maybe more optimally chosen, but considering that he already had them on hand, it doesn't make sense to completely replace them.
Special thanks to Neighbors by Ring for sponsoring this video.
As someone who orders a lot of products online, one of my biggest concerns is stolen packages. So lately, Wifey Sauce and I have been using the Neighbors app to see if there are any package thieves lurking in our neighborhood.
I'm gonna call the cops. Put the packages down. Put the packages down. I'm gonna call the cops right now.
Neighbors is a completely free app by Ring that lets you see real-time crime and safety alerts from your neighbors. You can start using it right after downloading, and you don't even need a Ring device. The app let us know that a neighbor 1.5 miles away from us had their package stolen right off their front porch in the middle of broad daylight. I've been instructing Amazon to hide our valuable packages ever since. To be honest, this app is a lot more insightful than I expected. The other day there was a helicopter flying over our house. We had no idea what was going on, but a few people confirmed that it was a search party looking for a missing hiker in our area. The feed's never completely full of bad news either. Like, Wifey Sauce and I are actually a little jealous that one of our neighbors down the street had a surprise visit the other day from a black bear who just stopped to smell the roses. It's actually a super useful app to have. It promotes safety, and I really appreciate that all the posts and comments are completely anonymous. Not to mention there's millions of people already using the app, so you're bound to find some interesting things going on in your area right now. If you want to see what's good in the hood, download the free Neighbors app today. I can't believe I just said that. Go to ring.com/bitwit to download from the Android or Apple app stores. That's ring.com/bitwit. But let's get on with the build here. So we've got a Ryzen 9 3900X. Yes, this is going to be a Ryzen PC. I actually told him to hold out until the new Ryzen 3000 series launched, and he's really glad he did, because looking at the reviews and stuff, he was like, yes, this is a much better option for me over the 9900K, for example, which he was initially considering for multi-threaded workloads and that sort of thing. 3900X, pairing that with an ASRock X570 Ti-Chi, could not have picked a more gorgeous motherboard. If you guys saw the Terminator build that I put together using that same board. It's also got a ton of connectivity, lots of I/O on it. He's pairing that with a whopping 64 gigs of Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR4 3200 speed. 3600 is the recommended sweet spot for Ryzen 3000, but I believe this is one of the parts that he's carrying over from his previous build, so it doesn't make sense for him to go out and buy a brand new 64 gig kit. That may also explain why there are two 32 gig kits here instead of just one 64 gig one. It looks like cast latencies are the same though, so it should be compatible, should be working together, no problems there. We're pairing that with a 1 terabyte 970 EVO NVMe M.2 SSD. It's not PCIe Gen 4, he probably doesn't need that. I don't know what kind of level of editing he's doing. This is still a plenty fast drive, and 1 terabyte is apparently adequate for his needs in terms of capacity, because that's the only drive that we're putting in here today. We also have an RM850X power supply, 80+ gold certified, fully modular. It is white, just like the case that we're going to be using today, which is the Meshify C from Fractal Design. This case looks fantastic in white. I love the white trim around the tempered glass side panel. Tons of ventilation at the front. For GPU, we've got an EVGA GeForce GTX 1070 Ti. This is a black edition. Nothing super fancy here. This is one of the other parts that he's carried over from his previous build. So he doesn't actually need a super fast graphics card for what he's doing, what he's using the system for. This is still a very nice card, even here in 2019, despite all the other good options that we have on the market right now. Oh, let's talk about the cooler. So the cooler, this is going to be interesting because we have an NH-D15 that he actually bought used, I think on Amazon Warehouse, if I'm not mistaken. One of the best air coolers on the market. It has been for quite some time now. And the only issue I can really see here is that it is extremely large. And this is a not so sizable case. I mean, it's a mid-tower, the Meshify C, but it's definitely more on the compact side. So I did some quick research, and I have found other users who have successfully stuck a D15 inside of their Meshify C without issues. However, there's a couple things to consider if you're thinking about doing the same. For starters, the D15 has the option to put a second fan on the right tower because it's a dual tower heatsink, right? So one of the fans goes in between both those heatsinks, the other fan goes to the right of the rightmost heatsink. So technically that fan is hovering directly over your memory modules, and if your memory modules or your heat spreaders are too tall, then you might not be able to actually close the side panel of your Meshify C comfortably enough. It might interfere with that rightmost fan. Fortunately, my friend Justin skeleton does have low profile memory, so we should be okay, if not a little tight, once all is said and done. Now, when Justin handed the parts off to me the other day, he mentioned that this was probably going to be the least attractive build that I've ever put together because of the lack of RGB and how he didn't really color coordinate as much as he probably could have. And I told him right off the bat, no, dude, I've made some really ugly PCs in the past. This is not going to remotely touch those, okay? It's still gonna look really nice for what it is. However, you guys know how we do on this channel, so just to spice things up a little bit, we're not gonna go too crazy here, but I thought I would just throw in these Chromax accessories that we're gonna be putting on top of the NH-D15. We've got some nice white cover plates for the heatsink towers, and then we also have two NF-A15 HSPWM fans in black. These are the exact same fans as the one that come included with the cooler, except they are black and have the nice little rubber corners that come in different colors. I think I'm gonna go with white though. This should really improve the overall look of the system, especially because the D15 is so large. It's probably going to take up like half of the interior of the Meshify case. It's going to be like the only thing you see, so you might as well make it look a little nicer. Also, one thing I'm slightly concerned about is that we're already going to be really cramped fitting the D15 in here. We're going to be even more cramped after putting on these cover plates onto our heatsink towers because they actually increase the height of those towers by about 5 millimeters. You can see there's a bit of plastic there it's about 5 millimeters, so we're gonna get even closer to the side panel. I did measure it out on the spec sheet and stuff. It looks like we are just barely gonna be within clearance, but it's gonna be a super tight squeeze, even more than it already was. So wish us luck on that. Hopefully that goes smoothly. The other thing I'm adding here is just some sleeved extensions. I believe these are either from Asia Horse or the Easy PC company. I forget what the hell they're called. These are really nice though, the nylon material. They're very easy to train, very shapeable. We're gonna be throwing those in as well. I went with black and gray because I wanted it to match somewhat with the crazy amount of Redux fans that Justin has also instructed me to install inside of the Meshify C. The more the merrier in terms of airflow, as long as he's comfortable with a little bit more noise probably. We have two 140 Reduxes and then we have four 120s. I think the way this is gonna go is we're gonna do three 120s at the front, two 140s at the top, and then that last 120 at the rear. As a final disclaimer, guys, Justin picked out all this hardware himself. The only thing I really suggested to him was to wait out for the Ryzen 3000 series, which I'm really glad he did, but everything else, he pretty much decided exactly what items he wanted inside of his build. For the record, I did suggest that he use my Dark Base 700 from Be Quiet instead because it has a much larger interior that would have accommodated this hardware a little bit nicer, but he insisted on the Meshify C because he loves the way it looks, and I don't blame him. You want a case that's gonna look good, and obviously this one has tons of great airflow at the front as well, so form and function, it's just gonna be a little tight. I mean, I reckon by the time we're done stuffing this thing, you wouldn't even be able to slip a finger in there. That's what she said. Anyway, let's go ahead and start building. Build complete, looking really good with that Chromax. Man, the Chromax is probably one of the most beautiful things you can find in the PC market. Just across any component, which is funny because they're for a product that's probably one of the ugliest on the market. So funny how that works. Sleeved extensions look really nice. They really tie the build together and give it an overall tidy, clean look. Look at that, single 8-pin plug for the 1070 Ti. What a good little power efficient card there. We also have the 24-pin extension right there, looking pretty fly. The only one I did not use was the 8-pin EPS, simply because this motherboard has an 8-pin as well as a 4-pin, and because it's so cramped in there, the only way I could really route these cables was having the 4-pin cross over the 8-pin cable completely. So even if I used that 8-pin, we wouldn't have been able to see it. It would have been covered up by the other power supply cable. And unfortunately, the cable kit that I have does not include a single 4-pin EPS cable. Doesn't really matter too much anyway because it's tucked away in the corner there, kind of mostly masked off by this massive cooler. Speaking of which, the cooler does fit. It fits the build, it fits the case, I should say, pretty much perfectly. We have about 1 millimeter or 2 of clearance between the fan on the right, and the side panel. So it just barely makes it. I was sweating bullets as I was doing that little side panel test at first, but it all worked out in the end. Very happy about that. I haven't even booted this thing. You guys probably saw it in the B-roll already, but this is my first boot. Dun, 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 dun. Fans are spinning. Those fans are spinning. 2 140s. And the 2 120s. Oh, this is a good point to bring up. So remember I said that I was gonna install 3 120s at the front, but I did not. You can see that I omitted the third fan at the bottom here because in order to do that, I would have had to remove this plate, but more importantly, the drive cage underneath it would also have to be pulled. And Justin told me that he was planning to install a hard drive later down the line, probably at some point soon. So we decided to omit that third fan so we can keep the drive cage. I think that's just a better overall option. Plus, 2 120mm Noctuas in a case like this where you have a full mesh front panel is going to be plenty of airflow. So I'm not too concerned at all about temperatures. That's pretty much it though. I really hope Justin likes the way that the system turned out as far as cosmetics and stuff. It's always kind of hard to gauge because it's so subjective. More importantly though, he should get a ton of good use out of this system for years to come for all of his filmography and workstation professional needs, which makes me very, very happy. This has been yet another build on the Bitway YouTube channel. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to toss a like on it before you go and get subscribed for more tech stuff coming at you really soon. Have a good one, guys. I will see you all in the next video. You are a kitty cat, always on my chair, always on my chair, getting hair everywhere, on my butt, on my shirt. Even when I film, it's all over the place and people think I'm super hairy, but really it's just you, and you don't even care, you just do what you do. Silly cat, you're so fat, you won't even chase a rat. You make me go to the store to buy you more food for your belly. You're very smelly, you should shower more.